Alright, hi everyone. My name is Kavion Parker and welcome to my virtual field trip. Today we're going to be going to three incredibly different regions today. We're going to be looking at Sri Lanka, New Zealand, and Iceland. They're all very different. We're going to be seeing sky fortresses where treaties were shaped and a rift valley. So, you know, uh, get a little snack, shouldn't be too long, but just enjoy the trip. So we're gonna go to our first place, which is Sri Lanka. So let's go travel there right now. And boom, in Sri Lanka, we're gonna go to Sigiriya, which is the place that I really wanted to show y'all. So in Sigiriya, also known as the Lion's Rock, it is a massive rock column that is nearly 200 meters tall. But it's not just a geological wonder, it's a cultural monument. You see, in the 5th century, King Kashyapa built his palace on top of this rock to protect himself from his rivals and to assert dominance. Sigiriya is both a masterpiece of ancient urban painting, planning, and architecture. So the site includes symmetrical gardens, water features, and a mirror well that once reflected the king's image. The frescoes paintings on the rock depict celestial maidens, symbols of beauty, spirituality, and royal power. So, here you can see an aerial shot of Sri Lanka. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. And here it is, definitely 200 meters. You can see more of the fortress here. And this is one of the water features that I talked about earlier, and gardens. And this is where the king's image was reflected. Unfortunately, it's not the same today, but it was the 5th century, so you gotta give him a break. Over here is another water feature. Some elephants. And this is where it got its name, the Lion's Rock, from. You can see the paw prints, and there was more over time, but it did get eroded away. But there was more to it that made it look like a lion. But it's still impressive that most of it, well, a lot of it survived. Also, fun fact about Sigiriya. So after King Kashyapa died, the site was converted into a Buddhist monastery. So it went from royal fortress to a religious sanctuary, which is kind of ironic, but you know, it is what it is. Some more landscape photos of it. Oh, you can see the other paw over here. Next aerial shot, and some elephants. Love to see it. So that is all for Sigiriya right now. We're gonna move on to our next destination, and it takes place in New Zealand. Specifically, we're going to the Waitangi Treaty Grounds. So this marks the signing of the Treaty Grounds in 1840. It was the Treaty of Waitangi by the Maori chiefs and the representatives of the British Crown. It is often described as the birthplace of modern New Zealand. It's also a place of ongoing debate and reflection. So the treaty was meant to establish a partnership, but differences in translations and interpretations kind of led to a conflict. Today, the site includes a beautifully carved Maori meeting house, a massive war canoe, and a museum. I would like to tell you the name of that war canoe, but unfortunately, I cannot pronounce it. But I will try. Nakatoki Matoaharu Ua? Yeah, see? Mm-mm. I apologize for that, but its name, you can look it up. It's a very cool place. The museum represents both the Maori and the Pakeke perspectives. That's the European people, by the way. So, the cultural performances aren't just entertainment, they're acts of remembrance and resistance. So think about this. Why is it important to preserve indigenous spaces like Waitangi? And how do they help us understand the complexities of colonial history and cultural resistance? So I'm going to show you some pictures of it real quick. Here are some images I pulled up. This is the canoe, which I could not pronounce for the life of me, but here it is, and this is the I don't believe this is where the war meetings happen, but this is where they keep the canoe in this area, and you can see the architecture still well maintained. And the museum is over here, and you can see all the other ancestors of the Maori people, and yeah, it's still well preserved. A lot of the architects. Here's the next image of the canoe. This is a closer shot, and here's some traditional Maori dances and songs they do perform at the museum. And let me see, I believe it was up here. It is. Here's the next shot of the museum with the traditional architecture intact. Some Maori people. And more pictures of the ancestors and the people whose legacy they left behind. And it's still ongoing. Very cool place. Here are some Maori artifacts, well preserved. And moving on, New Zealand was fun, but we're gonna go to our last place, which takes place in Iceland. So we're going all the way around the world here. So here in Iceland, specifically Þingvellir, yes, that is how it's pronounced. We're going to the national park. Now, I'm going to read a little bit and then I'm going to show you because it's an interesting place. So our final stop is Þingvellir National Park in Iceland. This site is remarkable for two reasons. First, its location of the Althing, Iceland's first national parliament, founded in 930 AD. Yes, that's correct. 930 AD. That makes it one of the oldest continuous parliaments in the world. Second, it sits directly on the mid-Atlantic ridge where North American and Eurasian tectonic plates meet. You could walk through the Rift Valley where the earth is slowly pulling apart. It's a dramatic reminder that nature doesn't just surround us, it shapes our political and cultural landscapes. So Þingvellir was where Icelanders gathered to make laws, settle disputes, and celebrate unity. Even today, it's a symbol of democratic tradition and national pride. So now I'm going to show you it real quick. And boom. As you can see, you could definitely see where it's sitting on top of the plates. Like, look at that rift. Like, it's really just moving apart. And of course, it's going to take a long time for this to completely break off, but it's still very cool that we could still see it, even if it's a slow process. Very cool site. And yes, you could visit this national park if you're ever in Iceland. Definitely one of the top spots to go. And you should also try to go in the mountains. Very good hiking trip. Would love to go myself one day. Alright, let me leave you with a little something to think about for Iceland before we wrap this up. What does it mean to hold democratic meetings in a place shaped by the forces of nature? And how does geography influence the way society organizes themselves? So, now that we're done with Þingvellir, that brings us to a close. I know our time here was so short. I don't want it to end either. So, these three sites, Sigiriya, Waitangi, and Þingvellir, show us the geography isn't about maps and terrain. It's about meaning. It's about how people build, believe, and belong. where a fortress in the sky, a treaty ground by the sea, or a parliament in the Rift Valley. Each place invites us to ask deeper questions about identity, history, and human relationship with the land. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I hope it inspires you to look around the world not just as a collection of places, but as a tapestry of stories waiting to explore. And that brings us to an end. See you next time.